Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody on this webinar. Thank you for joining us, especially at a time when there are so many events competing for our laptop webinar attention. Today is a very special event, and we've done many events, but I can truly say that. Today we are discussing claims like never before. And our guest speakers, three of whom you can see, one of whom you cannot see due to a technical issue. I'll introduce all of them in a moment. But between all of our guest speakers today, they represent over 100 years of claims management experience, and they're responsible collectively for a group of almost 50,000 claims professionals, most of which are here in the US, but all around the world as well. And today's session will literally be like having 4 conference keynotes in one single session. So I didn't want to overstate this. I wanted to explain it that way. Let me start by introducing myself for those who don't know. I'm Stephen Applebaum. I'm the managing partner of Insurance Solutions Group, and I'm a consulting partner with Insurance Nexus, part of Reuters event that's producing today's event. Today's session is coined claims like never before, but you'll find this interesting. The title for this webinar was actually coined back in earlier this year before coronavirus, and now I would say the title is even more meaningful than it ever was before. One more observation before we get started with our speakers. Those are the people you've come to hear, not me. Just a few years ago, the word disruption, when applied to insurance claims, had a totally different meaning and now is more relevant than ever before. And then finally, to set the stage, as the former mayor of Chicago and the White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, was fond of saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think that will, perhaps that thought, drive some of our conversation today in terms of the benefits, advantages, and impact coming out of coronavirus and how it's changing claims. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So let me just introduce briefly, and then we'll go and introduce full bios. But on your screen in the upper, you see Eric Brandt. On the right, top right, Jimmy Spears. In your bottom right, and I assume everybody's screen looks like mine does, as Mike Fiato. And the person you cannot see is Sean Burgess, Chief Claims Officer at USAA. He's here on audio. Please say hello, Sean.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. And he's got a technical issue. We couldn't get his video up, but here we are, and we'll have a complete discussion. Let me just tell you about the format for the time this morning. We're going to begin with Eric, and then each of the others in turn providing some brief remarks to set the stage. And we're going to leave at least 20 minutes, perhaps a little bit longer, for Q&A. We find that always to be one of the more valuable, more interesting portions of these webinars, because the questions are coming from people who are like-minded, who have the same issues, same thoughts, but we've got a chance to ask the experts here. So if anything, we're going to have a problem picking which questions we want to answer, but I'll try and do a good job of that. With that said, I'm going to introduce each of the presenters in the order of their presentations with a little bit of background, because I think these backgrounds, these bios, provide a lot of context for the commentary that we're going to hear. So let me start, if I may, by introducing Eric Brandt, who was recently named Executive Vice President and Chief Claims Officer at Allstate Insurance in January of 2020. Congratulations, Eric, and great timing, I must say.
Thank you.
So in his role, Eric oversees the largest employee group at Allstate, which is more than 15,000 employees nationwide. They handle over 7 million claims annually. Prior to joining Allstate, he served as Chief Claims Officer at Esurance. Eric has over 25 years of industry experience as a claim leader for professional, commercial, and specialty and disability lines of business. Prior to joining Esurance in 2014, Eric was Chief Claims and Risk Officer at a global firm specializing in niche insurance in the U.S. Eric also held Chief Claims Officer role at a leading disability insurer and had many years of personal lines leadership roles with a major carrier in the direct-to-consumer space. Eric, thanks for being here. Please share any comments you have at the outset.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate you. And I'm not sure how thrilled I am about the century of experience on the call. And then you added me with, who's going to claim what portion of that 100 years? We should.
I'll take.
Yeah. So welcome, everyone. Thank you. As Stephen had said, my name is Eric Brandt, Executive Vice President, Chief Claim Officer for Allstate. My job is to help our people leverage technology and empathy and deep technical knowledge to help protect and restore the lives of our customers. And before I get into the agenda, I just wanted to say a couple of words. First, some gratitude for our host for their flexibility and recognition for the colleagues that I'm with today. I'm humbled and I'm proud to be with this panel, many of which I've either worked with or I've met in the past or had a chance to be at various conferences with. And even before going one step further, I wanted just to wish you and your loved ones and your colleagues the very best. And all good health in this time where we're working through just unprecedented challenges. And I hope that we all get through this, making our industry better and certainly safe and sound as friends and colleagues. So part of my responsibility is to help our employees protect and restore. And even if you believe these times are too uncertain, and there is uncertainty in this time of disruption for sure, what I'll share is there are certain things that I believe to be true with regard to our people and our customers and the role of technology in the future. So I'll just touch on some of those as we go into the agenda. And I'm framing this up with a couple of words that I refer to as transformative growth. And it's true that we're in a period of disruption, but from disruption, I believe, can come transformation and growth. And that's what I hope we do as colleagues, is to lead through this and make this industry better. And with that, I'll share that I do believe that carriers and companies, not just in this domain and in this insurance vertical, but in fintech and insurtech and service more broadly, will largely fall into two categories. There will be the companies that lead through this change and lead through this period of disruption, making the industry better, probably accelerating the pace of change that we've already been riding through. Then there will be a second group of companies that are riding it out, largely riding it out, waiting for things to return to some sense of normalcy or some version of what we had in the past. And I would submit that all of us here on the conference today want to be part of that first group, the ones leading the positive change. So we'll talk about our people and our customers and technology just briefly, and then I'll hand it off back to Stephen and our next panelists. But first, we'll talk about our people. And I don't know about you, but I would say that I'm more than a little proud of the agility and the change hardiness of our people. I would submit that most of us are on this call today working in different circumstances, almost all of us. And there probably were the majority of us leading our people to work remotely in an accelerated fashion. And so I'm grateful, and we should recognize that change agility is a big part of what our people need. We've probably been reskilling our people. I know that we have been adjusting to various changes in volumes and various changes in customer needs and various changes in business imperatives as a result of that. So I would say, one word of encouragement is, as you think about your next step, Are you thinking about going back to the way things used to be from a human capital perspective? Or are you thinking about maybe expanded remote work? Are you thinking about your geographic spread and footprint? Are you thinking about how you train and skill and reskill your people using virtual tools? So all these things I think are important questions. And now we're adding to the lexicon things like personal protective equipment or reducing the spread or certain health considerations. Social distancing is going to become part of how we think about our people. So just food for thought there, but a word of encouragement to think a little bit less about getting people back to how they were and a little bit more about what our people need to be fully successful to show up for our customers in the right way. Next, I'll talk about our customers. Who would have thought that they would have embraced technology the way they have? They sure have. I'll share with you that we are fortunate to have virtual tools. And for those customers that may have been more analog or more of a digital lagger, that they've embraced and accelerated their acceptance of digital tools. So as we think about what our customers want and need in terms of products and services, will we prepare to go back to where we were, or will we prepare to serve our customers in a way that puts technology and people more at the forefront than we have in the past? And then, of course, from a technology perspective, I will share that nothing like voice, video, collaboration, how we think about our platforms, investments, an accelerated pace of deploying solutions for our customers. I would submit, probably like most people on this call, that the gravity around our technology agenda has never been greater. So with that, I'll just end with, and we'll get into the rest of the panel, key questions around how will you lead your people and prepare them for success? And how will we better serve our customers to make this industry even better? And then how will we leverage technology? Are the three key questions that I would have. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to this panel, and thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Eric, very much. That you've really set the stage for the whole discussion and the Q&A, and we'll be digging into a lot of that information. Our next center is the invisible Sean Burgess. So let me bring him to life for you, at least verbally. And for those of you who attended the Insurance Nexus Connected Claims Conference last year, you actually saw Sean alive and in person. But let me share some background before we ask Sean for his comments. So he's the Senior Vice President and the Chief Claims Officer at USAA. And in that role, he's responsible for the claims experience for USAA in the US and internationally, and he leads almost 7,000 employees who deliver on the promise to military families more than 6 million times a year. He's a 24-year veteran of USAA, and he's held various leadership roles within the P&C and across other parts of the company. Most recently, Sean served as Fulfillment Study Officer, focused on opportunities to help USAA improve its member experiences. In this role, Sean led an enterprise-wide research effort to better understand how acquisition, servicing, and fulfillment processes can be delivered seamlessly to members across USAA. Finally, Sean is a continuous learner, most recently completing the General Management program at Harvard University. He's also completed executive education programs at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business and the University of Texas McComb School of Business. He also holds a CPCU and a Senior Claims Law Associate designation. Please welcome Sean Burgess.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the introduction, and Eric, your comments. And I'll just reiterate that during these times, first and foremost, everybody's safety and health is most important. And I'll just reiterate that message that Eric said as well. And honored to be part of this conversation and talk about the things that are going on in our industry today. And one of the things is like flexibility. I'll just start with that. When you think about For instance, my video not working as I got logged in about 15 minutes ago. And it's amazing how quickly things have become more normal that we overcome. Things like dogs barking in the background, maybe, children playing in the background as you're trying to conduct business. Very quickly, almost overnight, that became the norm and acceptable. And I've reflected on that, and I think it's a good reflection for all of us about how we think about things the way they've always been, and how do we make sure that we're challenging ourselves in the future. So just a microcosm there I thought I would start with. But one of the things about the scenario that we're all in right now is I've never been more proud to be part of an industry that helps respond and helps take care of people, right? And that's what's kept me in the business for 24, now 25 years, as Stephen mentioned with USAA, is that I've always felt like we had a purpose and a mission to, in our case at USA, take care of military families, but more broadly across the industry, is take care of individuals and protect and restore them, as Eric said. And that's what we do every single day in this industry. And I think the communities need it more than ever now. So I'm really proud to be part of the claims community and participate in this conversation. One of the folks on my team, says very often that, everybody else's worst day has to be our best day. And that is something that is never more true today in today's environment. Here's how I'm thinking about this and how we're framing things up is, first and foremost, it's about taking care of employees so they can take care of our members and take care of society in general. But when I think about the time that we're in, I think the precedent that will be set about how individual companies across all industries, how they take care of their employees, how they think through every decision that you make about where people work, how people work, how many people you have enroll on campuses, your physical location, how we treat employees is going to be very important. And I think something that we should all consider very closely, because it'll have ripple effects, I believe, for the next decade of the trust and the loyalty that you have from your employee base will be how you treat them in moments of uncertainty and crisis that we're in. And certainly proud of the way that the USA team has done that, but it's how we do that that's going to make the difference. And then if we think about, what our employee base has been going through, you think about the work at home capabilities that are taking place. Again, we're all dialing in from different locations across the country. We've all spent time on, video conferencing, probably more in the last, 60 days than we had our entire career, potentially, right around the world. And our employees are dealing with that too. And so, work at home was already the biggest campus, if you classify that as a campus, at USAA. So as we started going through, moving to 100% work at home, while the logistical challenge was real, it's certainly the processes and the measurements and the performance and was not, right? It's something been done for many years. And one of the things I would encourage people to think through, because is you move out fast to make sure you're taking care of the health of the employee base, but thinking about how you move back is really important. And I believe a slower pace is better in that arena to make sure that you're taking care of everything that you need to, because it's not a one-time decision for 2020. It's going to set our industry up for, again, the next decade. And then, I think about the membership that we serve and in the broader community that we're taking care of. And I would agree with Eric, right? They're telling us that they want digital, right? You don't even have to ask them, right? They're telling through their actions that digital is how they want to do business. And being able to facilitate that is almost a requirement and something that we need to do. I would say the digital strategy that we have has not changed, but certainly has been accelerated. And I think the acceleration is going to play itself out over the next several months and years, and embracing that in a way that makes sense for your individual company and your customer base is going to be not only important, but I think a differentiator long term in how this industry is perceived, and how it executes longer term. And I think of it as kind of three different ways. One is the self-service, completely touchless claim. We're all down that path in the industry, and that's going to become more real. And then, I think about the adjuster ease, right? And the tools that they're going to need to operate in this environment, which is much different than the tools that they have today. And then I would be thinking about what are those concierge level service components of the claims experience that you want high touch for your brand, right? Depending on what that, it may be different for different carriers. But those are the way I frame up this whole conversation about how much digital, how fast digital, thinking about it in those three ways. What I can say and is, cycle time is being reduced from hours to seconds in many cases. The innovation that was on roadmaps for 6 months, 18 months, 20 months is now you could put weeks behind that those comments instead of months, and that's going to put significant strain on the workforce and certainly the entire operation. So just things that I'm thinking about that I wanted to share with the group that I think are definitely worthy of taking that measured approach to how we're going to look at the future when it comes to whether that's a work at home employee digital component or the touchless claims experience are all very important. The other thing is, being a design-led company, which we talk about that a lot at USAA, I think, designing member experiences may look different, right? It's going to look different in the future than it did even 60 days ago. And so like having a muscle in your organization where you can quickly pivot and transition and have the voice of your customer right at hand in a way that can be digested and then materialized out as actions is important, and something not saying that anyone, certainly myself or the team, is great at it, but it's a muscle that we try to flex often, is being design led by our members. And I see that coming into play more and more as members' lives change, as society's lives change, how they operate and how they act. It's going to be incumbent upon us to be like in front of that curve. And then the last thing I'll say before I turn it over is, I've been using this commentary, and I just think it's a good discussion, is this whole never look back. So I've been signing a lot of my emails to my team like hashtag never look back, and I think it's that whole commentary that you were talking about, Stephen, of never lose the opportunity to take advantage of a good crisis. While it's certainly tragic and sad what's happening from a business perspective, and what we're talking about today is this is a never look back moment of accelerating into the future. So those are my opening comments. Thanks for the time, and I look forward to the Q&A. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sean, so much. I'm beginning to think that we need a couple of hours for Q&A, but I've got a feeling you folks aren't going to stick around that long. But you've raised a lot of interesting discussion points. Our next presenter, I'm happy to reintroduce you to Mike Fiato. Say hi, Mike, to everybody. And Mike is currently Executive Vice President and Chief Claims Officer for Liberty Mutual's global retail market for U.S. claims. He's responsible for running the GRM, as they call it, for the U.S. claims organization, including oversight of nearly 9,000 employees across personal lines, auto physical damage, property, and casualty lines of business. In addition, he oversees small commercial business insurance and claims functional support teams. Mike joined Liberty Mutual in April of 2017, and he's based in Boston. Prior to joining Liberty Mutual, Mike spent over 25 years at Progressive Insurance, where his last role was General Manager of Claims. He earned his bachelor's degree from the State University of New York College at Brockport. His MS is in Labor and Industrial Relations from the University of Rhode Island, and his JD is from Suffolk University Law School. Please welcome Mike Fiato. Mike.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Thanks for hosting today, and thanks for allowing us to have a bunch of old guys talk about insurance for an hour, I guess. Apparently, our 100 years seems like a long time. I put 80 of that on Eric, and I'll take a couple of those years. I'll echo what Sean and Eric have said about being incredibly proud of our industry and also proud of my organization. We talk about delivering peace of mind to our customers, and I feel like we've done an exceptional job of that under the circumstances. As I was preparing for this, it really dawned on me that this kind of falls under the old rubric of people, process, and technology as an easy way to break this down. I think the people part certainly the most important for us. If you can't create an environment where your people are safe, healthy, and enabled, you're not going to be able to deliver the service that you want to. So I think first order of business certainly was taking advantage of some of the capabilities that we put in place and having the vast majority of our claims organization work from home a couple of days a week, which made the transition when we needed to make it very easy. I think we were able to get everybody home within a week. And the way we have thought about technology has allowed us to have virtually, nobody in offices. So we feel like we were able to accomplish that. I think beyond that, though, there's this piece of the people equation around, it's been 7+ weeks now. And I think we all go through different phases of being home. And I do worry about how we care for and identify folks who might be feeling isolated, folks who are where it's a struggle to work from home. Sean alluded to, kids and dogs and homeschooling and spouses or partners trying to share the same office. There's a lot of challenges, and I'm not sure that those challenges get easier for some folks. So I think, and then just being self-aware of what your own stressors and triggers are. I think, it would be easy for me to sit here and say, oh, it's perfect, but that's not the reality. I don't think for anybody. So trying to manage all that and keep that in front of us all the time, I think is super critical to allowing us, not only as companies, but as an industry, continue to deliver for our customers. On the process side, it is pretty amazing how quickly our customers were willing to accept a different kind of service from us. It kind of blows me away a little bit that, we could go to a place where we're writing, effectively 100% of our auto estimates via photos. It's awesome. It's also a little scary, right? Like it feels like we're doing a great job for our customers and our people in the safe and deliver service. But there's a company component to that, right? And the claims guy who says we should only pay what we owe worries a little bit about, what does this look like moving forward? And are we thinking about how we manage risk, how we identify risk, how we segment the work that we do, and really being thoughtful about that? Because Sean's point around looking forward, not looking backwards, there's a bunch of huge positives that we've been able to uncover. One is, man, were we slow as an industry to make decisions? And it feels like when put under the gun, right, when forced to make decisions more quickly, we're actually pretty good at it, right? I don't think anybody looks at the claims function of the industry as an industry in crisis right now. Transition maybe, but I think we've all done pretty well at speeding up our decision-making process, thinking about how to go about that differently. But how do we ensure that we don't fall back to old habits as we try to unwind some of this stuff and maybe figure out, hey, we do need to actually stand next to some buildings and next to some cars and actually look at them to be accurate. So I think managing risk, the metrics that we use, all those things are going to evolve pretty quickly here. So some of those cycles of how we do things, and then hopefully make decisions around things that we want to do to improve our business, remain in a faster cycle. And then I think for me, the technology piece is really fascinating. I think we're using our technology in ways that we didn't think we would want to use them, or even maybe thought that it was appropriate to use them, and yet we're finding that we can do really cool stuff with what we had. You know, digital enablement, the way we talk to customers, the way we communicate with customers, has become an incredibly powerful tool for us from the perspective of, if you start with the premise that the customer always wins, we need to be able to do things the way our customers want us to do them, and they want us to be virtual and digital today. That's what they need from us. And so I think the carriers who are able to do that today, and do it seamlessly, are in a significantly better position in terms of looking forward, and then how to build your ecosystem or your infrastructure around those types of things, and then make your investments moving forward. Because I don't see business as usual. I think we did the easy part. I think the easy part was saying, hey, we got tools, let's leverage them. Let's leverage our technology and get people home and make them safe. But now we got to unwind some of that. At some point, we're going to have to make decisions around things like, do people actually go to the office? Well, how many days do they go? When do we actually need to send somebody into the field? What does a customer want from us? And have those expectations over the course of, the last 2 months, and whoever knows how many more months. Has it actually changed customer expectations and sentiment in our industry in ways that aren't going to go back, right? So it's going to just be business as usual in a new usual. So that's it for me.
Thanks very much, Mike. More food for Q&A. Thanks very much again. Our final presenter, we do always save the best for last. As you can see, he's identified as James Spears on the screen, but for those who know him, for his friends, of which I consider myself one, he is Jimmy Spears. And so let me tell you a little bit about Jimmy Spears' background. He's with Tractable. Tractable is our sponsor today. They made this webinar possible, and we thank them for that. Jimmy is the head of automotive at Tractable, where he supports the North American leadership in driving adoption of Tractable's AI products. Jimmy joined Tractable after 30 plus years working in the insurance and the automotive industry, where he most recently led USAA's auto experience and global auto physical damage operations and strategy, as well as the strategic initiative team at Farmers Insurance. He also served 13 years in the U.S. Army and is a combat veteran of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. An innovator at heart, he believes AI damage appraisals are the most impactful technologies for carriers and collision repairers to adopt today, which is one of the main reasons he joined Tractable. Jimmy, we're looking forward to your comments.
Oh, thank you very much, Stephen, and thank you all for joining us today, and particularly all the folks in the panel and everybody joining us from home. We really do appreciate it. For those that aren't familiar with Tractable, let me tell you a little bit about the company. We service 15 major suppliers, carriers across the country, across the globe, in 12 different countries. We've also processed over $1 billion worth of auto physical damage claims. One of the reasons that I joined Tractable is the fact that we've been talking about today about touchless claims. Touchless claims, it's no longer a pipe dream. Touchless claims are actually here today. And I'll give some examples about what's going on in the industry, but I do really want to talk about artificial intelligence, how we use it, how it's going to become what I believe is just going to become critical during this next phase of how we grow out of this environment and grow into the next one. When I take a look at the industry, and I always vet out suppliers. One of the ways, and I'll probably help some folks today, I hope I do, the things that I used were just 3 measures, and they were pretty simple. It was speed, it was accuracy, and service. We've heard from others on the panel. There's going to be some decisions that are going to be made. Probably the folks on this call, on this webinar, you're going to be the ones making them, or you'll have teams that make them. If you can keep those 3 things of focus, speed, accuracy, and service, and vet out the suppliers, you're going to make some pretty good decisions. When we talk about speed, one example is a company that we do business with in the UK. It's called Ageas. Ageas uses us in their first notice of loss process. In fact, it's for a completely touchless end-to-end first notice of loss process. It's incredible. What happens is rather than having just a real heavy app that's installed on the phone, there's no need for that. With Ageas, when their customer calls in from the scene, they simply call up. The service rep then sends them a link over. And by the time they open the link, 2 to 3 minutes later, they have that critical decision at first notice of loss. Number 1, is that car repairable? If it's not repairable, it's a total loss. It can go down that channel. Then number 2, if the car is repairable, it can now go to that shop of choice. When we talk about speed and we measure it, and this is what I want everyone to do when they look at vendors, we have reduced 1 week of cycle time out of that process. That is a significant amount of time. Having those decisions, very accurate decisions placed up front, makes a terrific impact. And with accuracy, one of the tools that we use in our capabilities is a way for us to do an estimate review. And in this case, we're actually doing a second review. One of the things that I've been very instrumental in, a guy named Mike O'Leary, probably the best in the industry, I hope he's listening, is that we've invented over the years very, very archaic rules-based engines. Stephen talked about 100 years, and the cat's out of the bag, I'm 30 of those years. So a lot of tools that you see today, I've had a handprint or thumbprint in there somewhere. And so now what we're able to do, we no longer have a blind system. We have a tool that can see the vehicle. So we can be calibrated to that review. And what's happened is that where there is opportunity, we have been able to pick up 20 to 30% extra opportunity, accuracy out of that file. So we're talking about 2 of the top 5 major carriers in Canada that's using that today. This has impacted their book of business by 2 to 3%, the entire auto physical damage book of business. It's a significant impact. And then we talk about service, and Sean and everybody talked about we're going to have to really escalate the right decisions, and that's what we help to. We're able now to use our tools, and a large company that's in Japan, Tokyo Marine, they use our tools. And Eric, they're about the size of your operation. It's a little bit smaller than Allstate, 30% of the Japanese market. They're able to use our tools and subsidize, supplement some of that staff. And I know here in the United States, one of the biggest things that I had to consider was the fact that we did have an aging population, and particularly in the auto physical damage space, 20 to 30%, and at some carriers, about 40% of their auto physical damage space is retirement age or a little bit older. So we do know that we can help in that space and really subsidize that workforce and escalate those decisions up to that very highly trained group of people. Now, when we take a look at the whole ecosystem, we have the customer. Customers are appreciating this reduced periods of uncertainty. And I know we talked about it on the phone with the group. This is just completely, that is exactly where you make any movement in customer service, is reducing those periods of uncertainty, reducing those touch points. And if you think about a large carrier that we have, that first notice of loss, they're now better able to have one touch at that first notice of loss, one touch when it comes to the shop, and another touch when they pick it up. If you can have 3 touches or less, you will certainly score the highest in the polls that we use in the industry. That 3-touch rule or less, and our AI absolutely enables you to do that. And then we take a look at the carriers. Unbelievable service experience. You can have it can help both on the expense side, particularly on the indemnity side, and you have this thing about a 1 week less cycle time by making those very critical decisions up front, very accurate critical decisions. And then we have the shops. Shops now have our technology can help them with 70% fewer total losses that go to shops. Now, when they have a vehicle, they'll be much more efficient. It can come in. They can start to work on this on these type of vehicles. And then if we take a look at parts suppliers, because we really have to take a look at that within the chain. There's now the opportunity at first notice of loss, because we have visual identification, to begin to now start to have these parts suppliers have their orders come in at first notice of loss, even further reducing cycle time. And in closing, I'd like to do the way that I opened. We have touchless claims, and I know a lot of times people think that we need to have the goal of getting to them. I'm here to tell you, touchless claims are here today. It's an operating environment. We can certainly help you. And if you would like to find out more about what you can do to get in this journey, please contact me or my staff at tractable.ai. Stephen, back to you.
Thanks very much, Jimmy. You know, just as a personal aside, I've known you for almost all of the 30 years that you referenced. You've always been passionate about your work. I think you've raised your game, I must say, based on the few minutes you just shared.
Well, Stephen, I kind of calmed it down because I'm alone in a room. Well, I do have my dog here, but I don't know. In person, I'll be a little bit more animated. You know how it is. But I'm very excited about what we can deliver to the industry, particularly at this time. It's very needed.
Well, I thank you for the comments. They're going to add a lot of color to our Q&A. So let's do that now. If the audience sees me looking away off in the distance, I'm reading the question panel here on the web controls. Haven't seen any questions here, but I've got a few of my own that I've prepared. And I guess I'd like to start by a quick roundtable with everybody about adoption of some of these new technologies. And I'm not limiting the question to the period during coronavirus, but more broadly, what you were doing before, what you're doing now, what you expect to be doing post-corona, if there is such a world, around the adoption of some of the newer emerging technologies like, I think, Mike, you mentioned that your company's doing 100% of photo-based inspection. I know Allstate has heavily penetrated there. Maybe we could start with that, or you could name any other technologies, including AI and computer vision, that you're seeing accelerated adoption of within your own claims operations. Sean, I'll ask you first since you're not on the screen here.
All right, thanks, Stephen. I think it's a good question and something I think that we're constantly talking about. And to your point, like pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, whatever that time frame looks like, that is certainly something that we are considering. You look at it from a couple of things, or the way I look at it is a couple ways. One is what do military families need? Like that's the first and foremost of how we set up things around innovation. And so like they'll tell us, and they do, through actions and through their behaviors, what they're looking for. And they are clearly telling us that they want to be digital, virtual, touchless, whatever term you want to put it in there. And we see that in any number of things through, the activities that happen on our digital channel is a very good indicator as that continues to just accelerate at a pretty amazing pace. Again, that's just self-utilization from a member. So like watching what they're doing can lead you to the future. And then the other thing I think about is like, where do you want to be, and what's your vision? And, we're going to turn 100 years old here in a couple of years in June of 2022. So, we've set some very, lofty goals for when we get there and have milestones through the way. But, the philosophy that I use around that, Stephen and team that we're talking to, is like, set that target out there and then work yourself backwards from the member's eyes. Like, that's the, kind of philosophy, and that manifests itself in a couple of different ways. One is, what are you going to build in-house, and how are you going to train and educate and really transform your operating model to, receive that? And then what are your business partners going to look like, right? Because my philosophy is you don't do it alone, right? We've always had and will continue to have key business partners at USAA that will help us, deliver on the promise for military families. So that's the way I think through that. And COVID has accelerated that, as I said in my opening comments, no doubt about it. It has not changed our roadmap, and it has not changed our digital philosophy, I'll call it, and our strategic goals. But no doubt, like this whole, turning 100, now those goals may be there when we turn 98 or when we turn 99. And that's a real possibility just because of the agility that's been injected into the system because of COVID. So that's how I would answer that question. Appreciate it. Thanks.
John, years from now, we may refer to this period as the coronavirus effect, I guess. Eric, how about yourself and either Esurance or Allstate or both in terms of new technology adoption?
Yeah, Stephen, thank you. Excellent question, and I'll take it from what had been happening in the past, and of course how that plays into what I see as an accelerated pace of change in the future. I mean, as you said, we have a deep domain expertise at Allstate on video collaboration. In the past, we had viewed video collaboration through our virtual assistant tool as primarily a B2B treatment. Not exclusively, but that was kind of the core capability. It was collaborating with repair facilities and contractors. It had exceptional receptivity. This accelerated the adoption. I think this change, the combination of consumer willingness together with the maturity of that capability, allowed us to accelerate virtual collaboration and the virtual assist tool to a B2C treatment. So our customers are now going through this guided video experience, and that becomes important. As a second piece that I would just highlight, voice. I think we would all recognize that voice, speech to text analytics, that is a deep domain expertise area for Allstate. This accelerates that because we have so much more recorded voice, which essentially is just, a deeper well of data in your data stores. And from that, it's critical for your proprietary models to activate, certain treatments, whether it be consumer or commercial, fraud, liability, collections, or whatever the case may be. I think what's going to happen in the future is because of this customer receptivity, whether it be on the business side or the consumer side, I know we're talking primarily about consumer products here, but I do believe that the willingness for kind of a guided virtual assistant will probably accelerate. So in the past, I would say that there was this gravitational pull towards more analog telephonic facilitation. And I would say, looking ahead, voice, video, guided practices and processes, all will become, more widely adopted. And like I said in the last conference, the people that are supporting our customers they will be doing far less of the low complexity transactional work. Their decision making will be more augmented with models. They will be, more supercharged as adjusters. I called them superheroes last year, and I think that's coming to be. They've been heroic with how they've been able to adapt, and we're going to need those people to be even more flexible, and they have been. So super proud of our people, because it's always going to be a technology and people play. You might be on mute, Stephen.
Didn't mean to be. Let's see.
I got you. You're good.
Okay, I wasn't on mute. I don't know what happened. Mike,
No worries.
your time for emerging technologies, anything similar, different with Liberty? I can't hear Mike.
Sorry about that. Somebody had muted me. Wouldn't be
There
the
you
first
go.
time in my wouldn't be the first time in my career somebody didn't want to listen to me.
You're back.
I really, both Eric and Sean's comments resonated with me. I feel like the customer's really driving a lot of what we need to focus on. So let's start with the premise that customers don't want to pay for a lot of overhead. They want to pay for the things that they derive value from, right? So if you think about when they pay for premium, if we're not delivering super cost effective and efficient value to them on the claim side, we're failing. And so it requires us to do things and build, I don't know if you call it ecosystem if you want, but that allow us to reduce defects within our own handling. So just think about, you take a claim, whether it's EFNOL or if it's, in a traditional way, and it's a total loss, but you don't recognize that it's a total loss. That's not a good customer experience, and it's a defect, and that defect costs us money. Costs my organization money, but in the industry it costs money and in a number of different ways. So I think the first thing that we really need, at least I'm focused on, is how do we systematically reduce defects in a way that take most of the noise out of the system. That's number one. I think number two is let's learn from the lessons around virtualization of some of the things that we used to do face-to-face from a no-touch, low-touch perspective. So we would, I think traditionally we would think about that as a segment, but like, what's the lesson here, right? And what is the customer telling us they're comfortable with or would feel empowered to? And Eric talked about guided, guided help through experiences. It's certainly one way to do it. I think the other one is just continuing to push the envelope for our customers, because this is, I don't mean this to sound negative because I don't mean it this way, but our customers don't even know in some respects what they like, because they've never been presented with things to say, I've got choices, which one would I like to use? Because we've made those decisions. And I don't think we can do that anymore. I think we've got to actually put it out to the customer and give them options beyond what we've done traditionally. But we have to do it in a way that is super efficient and super cost effective, or they're just not going to buy it.
Thanks, Mike. It's interesting about claims because something like on average 10% of our policyholders have a claims experience in the course of a year. And so we're not dealing with a highly experienced audience when it comes to expectations. Jimmy, I'd like to change the question for you, since you've had an extensive experience on the insurer side and now more recently on the information side. Change the question to this about AI. We've all been hearing a lot about the application of AI and computer vision in auto claims. You were very clear about your view of where its usefulness can be. But when it comes down to actually getting involved from a carrier's perspective, what advice would you have for carriers who are trying to assess the value of AI for their own operations, and how do they go about selecting a business partner in a generic way?
Yeah, I tell you, that is a great question. And it's something that if you run these operations, you're posed with all the time. One of the things that you really want to make sure is that you thoroughly vet out the carrier, or I should say the vendor. One of the things that I would start with is just a very good challenge. Make sure that with an artificial intelligence provider that you bring your own images. Make sure that none have seen the web. No one has really run anything on those. Bring your own images. Put that to the test. Bring out that stopwatch. You want to see that once you upload those images, within 2 to 3 minutes, a very well vetted appraisal of damages comes back. That first notice of loss decision, is it repairable? Because that's so critical. And then you can go forward with that. But I believe that it very much starts out with is do your homework, make sure that they're in the industry. Fortunately, we have 15 global customers over 12 countries. We're really prepared to help with that. But you do want to make sure that you hold them accountable, and you bring your own images, you have them conduct it. Do not have an SLA for 2 to 3 hours that comes through. You don't know what's happened in the background. You want that very immediate, touchless first notice of loss experience for your customer. You want to reduce those periods of uncertainty. You want accurate decisions. You really want that speed, accuracy, and service. And if you use those 3 measures that I talked about, you're going to do a very good job for your company.
Thanks, Jimmy. Let me give you a quick follow-on question before we go around the horn one more. How should carriers go about evaluating artificial intelligence, computer vision solutions? Is there a standard protocol, a standard approach? Is there a methodology that's becoming commonly accepted?
Certainly. What you want to do, like I've said, if you really, once you get over the hurdle, you've supplied your own images, now you say, this is a company I want to do business with. You need to make sure that they can be calibrated to how you do business, where you do business, the ways that you have your parts feeds. You want to make sure that that company can integrate with you. You want it to be able to integrate into your app if you have an app. You want to be able to integrate to your first notice of loss procedures. And you want all those very well tested. But you do want to go through a very defined, what I would call an engagement period, where the teams come together, you decide on a set of rules, you run it through, you calibrate it to how you perform, and then you have that accuracy measurement, that period or that sense of variability of what you want in performance. Hold that supplier accountable, and that's how you really pick a great AI supplier.
Thank you very much. So in the remaining time, I'm going to go around and ask each of you, if you wish, to take the opportunity to say a few words on whatever subject you'd like to pick or whatever message you'd like to convey to our audience. We've got almost 2,000 people attending today. We've got your teams out there, 50,000 or so people who are probably going to be watching or listening to this webinar at some point. And then we've got the community at large. And so I'll start with you, Sean, if you'd like, and just what message would you like to share today relative to either this topic or any other?
Yeah, I'll keep it short in the interest of time, but I would just say as we sign off and go back to our daily activities, just a couple things on my mind I would like to share is take this opportunity to help our industry that is grounded in restoring people's lives and helping them recover from disaster, whether that's small or large. This is our time to really move our industry forward. Take care of our employees. I say that not just for USA, but just broadly the people in our field. Like the more we take care of them, I truly believe it's going to define who wants to come in this industry, who wants to stay in this industry. And this is a pivotal time for us to take care of our employee bases. I would encourage people to do that. and then never look back. Let's make this industry the best it can be. To Mike's point, this industry has been known to be slow moving and maybe, not the most innovative. Let's change that. Let's use this opportunity to have the experiences that our customers deserve. That's how I'll leave it. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Sean. Eric, yourself, 30 seconds. We're going to go a little over, but I think it's worth it. What message do you have?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I'll keep it brief as well, and I'll end where I started with some recognition for what's gone so well in this period of hardship and challenge, and that is let's make sure we take care of our people, because it's our people who have gotten us through this, even if it's our people who are leveraging technology to solve the problems of our customers. They're doing it with empathy and deep technical skill. Like you and the rest of the panelists, I'm here to help our people succeed and also help this industry better support our customers and deliver a better experience.
Thanks, Eric. Mike, do you have anything to say?
Sure. I'll just finish up with I too am very proud of what the industry's done, particularly proud of my claims organization. I often refer to what we do as a noble profession. This is when we get to prove that. And I think we've had a pretty good showing so far, and we have an opportunity to be even better as we move forward. So there's always silver linings, and I think we'll all find ours during this time.
And Jimmy.
I'll tell you that there's never been a better time in history where humans are poised to better interface with technology than they are today. Look at what we're doing right now. This normally would have been a conference we all would have flown to. And that means that's what your customers are doing. Your customers are becoming much more accustomed to being able to interface with technology, have that trust. And that's what you want to have is to be able to build that channel of choice. And I believe that the customers are going to go for contact-free. Gosh, you can even order your pizza now contact-free. I'm certainly that their claims are going to want to be contact-free. So now this interface of humans and technology can really help that. And I think artificial intelligence, we're so poised, and Tractable's poised. And we would really like to be able to talk to you and help you get over some of those hurdles and better understand what you can do with our technology.
Thanks, Jimmy. I just, on behalf of Insurance Next Reuters events, I really, truly thank everybody. We're all very, very busy. So thank you all for participating. My own message to everybody is, obviously stay well, be patient a little longer for the common good, and look forward to some more interesting content from Insurance Nexus by Reuters events. Thank you all. Have a safe day.
All right, thank you.